Well, hey, there you are, Sonia here. Welcome to Sonia's Sermonettes. Can I be real with you this evening? I've thought about this quite often, and I know that there are people that wonder why this ministry that I have, this work that I do, seems to reach out to those that feel hurt and rejected and denied, and those that just feel like they're not welcome, have been beat to death with rules and restrictions and regulations and I don't know what all. And they have been run off. Well, I run across a few experiences throughout the course of all these years that I would kind of like to share with you. I haven't always had it easy. I haven't always just sat behind a desk and a mic and just calmly share with you the love of God and the sharing of caring for one another, which is what I really feel to do. But sometimes we really do need to get down to the nitty-gritty, as they call it, and let people know. The reason why I have compassion, empathy, and I reach out to those that really, truly need sharing and compassion and caring and love is because I know what it's like at first hand. I could tell you stories that happened out times that we were out on the road and ministering, my husband and I were, and we traveled around and went to revivals and had home meetings and what have you. Well, I recall a time that we had been having home meetings and revivals, as we called them, where you went from church to church and ministered and shared the word and shared your testimony. And this one man and his wife and family acted as if they would like to have us come and visit them, and we did. We went over and stayed a while with him, and he got to going on about how that these women in these kitchens and how they stir up this fleshly kind of worship and all this stuff's almost like witchcraft or voodoo or whatever, and that he's never seen anything good come out of it, and that he didn't feel like it was the way that God wanted to move or bless. Well, I guess he forgot about what he read in the Bible about where they were having home meetings in the New Testament, and the disciples went from house to house and what have you. We forget things because we got our minds made up. We got set rules. We got our minds designated on what we feel and get in a rut. And he was just going on and on about it. Well, he knew that we had had home meetings and traveled around to churches and what have you at that time. And they were really strict religious people, if you please. They had their little rules and their little regulations. And I recall I had really long hair back then. It was really long. And the wife was walking behind me. And she grabbed my hair with her hands and held it. Well, to me, that's a personal space that you just don't touch people just out of nowhere and just think it's okay. Grabbed my hair and says, "Your hair looks like it's been cut." Well, what a shame that was. What a horrible thing and a horrible sin that may have been in their eyes. I just walked on as she let my hair go. Back in the day, that wouldn't have been that calm. I wouldn't have taken that in like I did. The only thing I did was I realized these kind of people are not the kind of people I want to associate with, that I feel like I need to reach out to and minister. But before we left, they wanted to have a little time of prayer. Well, it was in a house. I mean, how could we possibly do that? We weren't in a church building. We needed to go to the church and pray, possibly. But you know what happened? The Spirit of God just moved magnificently. And we had a good old-fashioned home meeting where the Spirit of God just moved greatly, like a streak of lightning. People started coming in their house. I don't know. I I just assumed they had planned, or possibly the Spirit of God directed them to come. Well, that old boy got a real wake-up call about how God doesn't move in home meetings, and how these old women that get together in the kitchens just have big gossip sessions and what have you. He sure got a real lesson on life about that. Well, we loaded up and left and never went back. Never contacted them, just separated. Anyone that will insult what God's doing in a person's life, anyone that will insult an individual's personal space and ridicule and really talk down to a person, like your hair, get your fingers out of my hair, is what I was thinking. I just went on about my business, but we never went back. There's been times, I recall another time, we was down in a little town, southern Illinois, little bitty old church building, and there was such a precious little old lady, and Sister Catherine and Brother Raymond. They were special people. Not all people are like that. That's a good thing to know. You just really got to know who you're working with. As the word says, know those that labor among you. And it also tells you about sheep and also wolves in sheep's clothing. So just be aware. Not all that says they're for you are really for you. So this lady come up to me and she said, oh, she said, we just love what you do and your music and your worship and what you have to say. And I would just love to have you come to our church. And it was on our route back to where we lived. And I want you to stop in, and I want you to meet our church. And I know that they would just really love to have you there. Well, reluctantly, I went. On our way home, and she told us her address and what have you, had phone numbers and everything. I mean, just like you would, you get contacts. Went there, and she acted really reluctant in us being there. And I said, well, we've come by like you've invited us to, and we have considered having a meeting. She says, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you invited us to come, that you wanted us to meet, the people in your church, and you wanted us to have a meeting because you really enjoyed it. She said, no, we don't want that. We don't need you, she said. Told me that several times. We don't need you. And I thought, well, I hate having my husband at the time introduced to such radical stuff going on. But you do really have to weed out and to know those that you labor among. Know what they're all about, and I have no idea why she even invited me, or possibly what happened after she told the church about having me come up there. Well, we left. Never went back, never called her, never talked to her. But we had the radio on our way home. Had quite a ways to go. Had the radio on, and as a result, there was a news. It had been storming down in that area. Storming as we left. I mean, it was really just a bad storm. And there was a news broadcast that came on that there had been lightning that had struck that particular church where she said, we don't need you. That particular church got struck with lightning and was burning as we were leaving. You say, does God do that? I ain't saying anything did it. I'm just saying there are times that you will get an understanding of who to trust and who not to trust, and not all that says Lord, Lord is for you. I could tell you stories, but that's not what I really care to do. But I just want you to know, some of you feel right now like you've been betrayed, like you've been denied, you've been rejected for whatever reason, and you feel like that no one's made it where you could be welcome. They've let you know, like this lady said to me, we don't need you. Well, I realize now, no, you're not going to need me because your church burnt down. So that's the way things happen sometimes. I wasn't happy about that, but it just let me know you don't have to fight these battles. You know what, dear friend and friends, you don't have to fight the battles. You don't have to try to prove to somebody what your walk with God is or what your walk that you live your life as. It doesn't matter. You don't have to tell anyone, share anything with that. You just do what you know to do. And if people don't like it, that's all right. Let them go on down the road somewhere. Dismiss it. Forget about it. Don't fight these battles that just are a waste of your time. Just excel into goodness of God. Just put forth your greatest effort and focus on God. Focus on, look, there are people out here that are good, and there are people that are bad, and there are people that need. There are people that say they do, but they don't. You just learn, I'm doing whatever God calls me, wherever I'm at. If you don't like me, that's all right. You can look at their faces and tell whether they accept you or not. You look around for the ones that really are hearing and really need what you have to say. If it's friendship, whatever it is, if it's in your family, know those that really do need you and that really pay attention and that are grateful for what you do. And give God all glory for an understanding and a revelation. Know those that labor among you. I'm glad you stopped in, and I trust this helps you to not be discouraged. I want you to be encouraged because God loves us. Yes, He does. And so until next time.